Hey guys, and welcome back to the fourth episode of this beginner's guide. In the first couple episodes, we went over how to make cargo routes. In the last episode, we went over how to start passenger services with buses and trams. And then in this episode, we're actually going to connect this city to a different city through this train station right here. And to do that, we're basically going to do the exact same thing we did to this city, just to over here, just to make sure that there's a place for this train station to actually connect to. So I'm going to go a little bit quicker for this city since I covered it pretty thoroughly in the last episode, but let's go ahead and get a passenger station and face the building somewhere towards the city. Something like that is probably good. I'm also going to go ahead and place down some more passenger cargo or passenger storage, whatever you want to call it, something like this, and then maybe we have just some medium buildings on this side. Looks good. Are boring into the ground quite significantly here, but that's all right if we have the money for it, which I think we do. And now let's go ahead and build some street connections. Something like that probably works, and then maybe we can just connect it here. And then if we ever want to expand to the left, we can, but I'm just going to go ahead and put a bus station right here. Something like that probably works. And then now if we click either the train station or the bus stop, they should light up like that. And now let's go ahead and build the rest of the bus route. Just when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking it might be nice for the bus to come in this way and then like leave this way. So I'm actually going to expand this road a little bit. Something like this. Maybe let's expand this one first. And then we can connect them something like this, and then that'll give a little bit more room for the city to expand, which will be kind of nice. So let's go over and grab this bus slash tram stop, and then we can start building this around the city. So again, it might be nice to zoom out, gonna get kind of like a top-down view like this, and I'm thinking bus will probably come around this way. We're going to want to stop on this street, and then maybe we have it come down this street over here, maybe up this way a little bit, something like this. Probably going to come down here, and then we could expand this street and have the bus route go like over here, but I don't really want to do that. I'm just going to have it come back down here for now. So it's going to turn right on this street, maybe take a left, head down this way, and then maybe only one more stop like right here. There's not too many cities here right now, but the city will grow, and if we already have a bus stop here, then it's going to make this part of the city grow even faster. And if you noticed, I put bus stops on both sides of the street. That's just going to make it a lot easier to build the reverse route. And let's go ahead and make a new line. Again, I typically like to do this starting at the bus stop right next to the main connection. Then let's go around this way. All of this stuff should match the visual we have in our head, and that looks pretty good. And to do the reverse bus route, again, tip we learned in my video is after the last one, we're going to come back to the main stop and then just go in reverse. And it's really easy when you have the numbers kind of just next to the bus stops like this, you just go in reverse order. So 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and then we don't need another one because it's just going to start the route over. And then something I forgot to do in the last one is to enable the alternate platforms. Again, I pretty much do this all the time for everything, whether it's cargo or passengers. So let's just go ahead and do this for the other line we made in the previous one as well. And then our line manager is getting kind of cluttery now. I think it's time to get to naming conventions. So I'm going to, let's start with this line we just made right here. And I usually like to start with the line type, whether it's passenger or cargo. So this one's going to be passenger. I'm going to start with a B. Then I usually like to do the vehicle type, whether it's like a bus, whether it's a train, whether it's a road or something. So in this case, this is going to be a bus route, so I'm going to do PB for passenger bus. Then I'm just going to do the city. So I think this city is Siam. And let's apply the same logic over to this other line. So we can go over here. And then this is also just going to be a passenger bus route. And then this city is going to be Abingdon. Cool, and let's go ahead and name the cargo lines while we're at it. So let's find the first one we made, which is going to be a wood line. And it's going to be a pretty similar convention. Instead of passenger though, this is going to be cargo. So I'll start with a C, and then I'm going to do a T for truck, And then, so this is a cargo truck at Abingdon. And this is going to be a wood line. So just like that, cargo truck, Abingdon, wood. This second line over here is going to be also a cargo truck at Abingdon, but this is going to be coal. And then this third line right here is going to be a cargo truck as well, Abingdon again, and then iron. The last one we have here is this train line, and it is going to be cargo, but train and truck start with the same letter, so I usually default to R for rail, so cargo rail. I know it's a little bit confusing because like trucks also go on a road, so truck and train and then rail and road. It's a little bit confusing. There's not really a perfect solution, but this is kind of how I like it. Cargo truck and then cargo rail at Abingdon, and then this is going to be going to the steel mill itself. So whenever it goes to a like refined factory, I'll usually go over to the factory itself and see what the game calls it. The game calls this a steel mill, so let's go ahead and call this steel mill. And then let's also color this one. Steel is typically like a gray color, but gray is really hard to see when you're in this like black and white mode. So like, I don't know, maybe this lighter color would be more accurate, but it's just like really hard to see. You can see it when you click on the map like that pretty easily. But whatever you guys want to do, if you want to stick to the like coloring the lines based on like whatever the product is, that should work fine. And I'm not saying that my naming convention is perfect. You guys can do whatever you want, but this has worked really well for me. I have the cargo type and vehicle type on the far left. I have the city after that, and then whatever resources on the far end. So it sorts it pretty nicely when you're in here. And if you're playing on bigger maps, you can have like 100+ routes easily. So it does help to have some naming convention earlier rather than later. Just figure out whatever you want to use. If you want to use mine, great, but if you have a different one, by all means, go for it. So let's go ahead and actually assign some bus to the new route that we just made up here, and it's going to be pretty easy to do that. Again, I'm going to go a little bit faster here because this should seem pretty familiar from the last episode, and placing this somewhere close to the first stop should be fine. Let's go with a different bus type for this one just to be fun. This one looks kind of funky. I like it, so let's build 2 of it, 1 for each direction of the line. And again, when I set this one to the line, the vehicles should go off in the proper directions, but let's just double check to see if they do that. So one is going to that way. Let's just wait until they actually finish the bus stop so we can see which way they're going. I think they're going to the same place, but let me just speed this up a little bit just to verify that. And they might actually be going to different directions. This one's going to Mill Road, which is over there, and then this one is going to South Street. So hey, they did go the proper way, so we don't need to reverse any of them, so that's great. And incidentally, we can also see that we already have demand for some of these bus route lines, which is great. So now the next step is to connect the train stations together. And that's not going to be too hard. It's basically just a connect the dots, but we should plan our route a little bit. So it's probably going to come around this refinery here. We're going to want to bridge over right here. And then I think based on where this is, if we come at it from this direction, I mean, we could either go this way around it or we go this way around it. If we ever want to build a truck station here, then I don't really want to have to worry about the trucks waiting for the train. Probably not a huge deal, but I'm just going to go ahead and build it to the left around here, and then it'll kind of loop around and come back. And with the route mentally planned in our heads, let's go ahead and get to building. So I'm going to go over here, just get these standard tracks, and then I'm not going to electrify it just to save a little bit of money. And we decided on going left around the oil refinery, so I'm just going to do something like this. The more you build in like short segments and follow the contour of the land, the more money you're going to save. I'm not going to worry about it too much in this episode, but we want to leave a little bit of room around the refinery just in case we ever want to add either 1 track or even like 4 tracks. I don't think we're going to want to, but it's generally a good idea just to leave a little bit of room. And something like that's probably good. Ooh, I didn't even see this mountain here. That's going to cost a little bit of money, but I think we can probably tunnel through the mountain, but we're going to want to like, I don't know, this is going to be a big old, it's going to be a big old track, and oh my gosh, that is a monstrous size bridge. Can we lower that at all? $5 million to build that. That's a little bit more than I was thinking, but I guess this is why you want to plan your routes. I could have planned this one a little bit better, but we can afford that. The ships will be able to go under this bridge right here, and let's see, I think that's probably how I'm gonna want to leave it. So we just lost a little bit of money. Let me borrow some. And unfortunately that made our track disappear, so I'm actually going to take this opportunity to borrow just a bunch more money just in case. And let's go ahead and finish this route over here. So let's go back, and I think this is a little bit more of a vanity project than I was thinking. I wasn't really intending for it to be so massive, but maybe we have it like arrive there or something. And then I'm using the M and N keys to adjust the height of this, and then it looks like the lower we go, it gets dramatically cheaper. So I think, let me just double check all this looks good one more time. This looks good. It's arriving here. Yeah, I think that'll be good, but $6 million is pretty dang steep. I would recommend trying to build a little bit cheaper than that, but should be fine. Let's go ahead and just finish this off now like that. And bam, we have our very expensive train line. So now we can actually put a train onto this line, and I'm going to put the depot somewhere on the other side where we have a little bit more room, probably around here. If we did add a track, we would add it on this side. We wouldn't add a track over here because there's already like a station right here. So that means instead of putting the depot over here, I am going to put it on this side. And let's go ahead and do, again, just keep in mind where the train is going to come out. It's going to come out on the left side of the station, not this side of the station where there's a window. So let me put it something like this, and then just a nice, easy, again, connect the dots kind of thing. I don't have this line electrified, so I'll just do something like this, just like that. And I actually am going to borrow a little bit more money because typically buying trains is pretty expensive. And something I did not cover in the last episode we talked about trains is that you generally want to match the top speed of the locomotives to whatever wagon you're buying. So in this case, let's just start with a 100-kilometer-an-hour train. Just something like this is probably going to be fine. And then now we can look through the passenger cars for something with a 100-kilometer-an-hour or around their top speed. So this one's 100, that's 100. We don't need this because the locomotive we selected is not going to be able to go anywhere near 180 kilometers an hour, so this would just be a waste of money. Let's see, this one has 100, this one has 100, and then obviously you can just look through and find which ones are similar. It doesn't have to be exact, but it will be the most cost efficient to get the exact same. And so let's add a couple of these cars, and another thing to look for down here is how good your train will perform. So this train will perform excellent with 0 cars, and then just one single car will bring excellent down to good. That's fine, it'll do fine. Generally, you want to keep it above mediocre or bad, and actually just 2 cars on this brings it down from good to mediocre. So I think this train actually doesn't have that much power, and you can see here the power right here is 1,000, and that might just not be enough for what we're looking for because we want a train with like good stats ideally. So I'm going to switch it up. Let's find a train that has a little bit more power and has a similar top speed. And let's do this one that has a little bit more power and a similar top speed. It is going to be a little bit slower, but again, we're going to get better performance out of it. So let's add it here, and then you can see with those exact same 3 cars, we have excellent performance. So that difference in power is just so much better at pulling the train that I actually think we're going to be better off losing a top speed, but having just significantly better performance, especially since we have the big hill we built. We're going to want this to be either good or excellent, and then we can, how many cars can we add for it to be good? So at 4 cars is where it drops down to good, so we could probably start with that. And let's start with, how much can we afford? We can afford 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's just start with something like this. It's a little bit of a balancing act between having longer trains that carry more people but go a little bit slower and having like a bunch of small trains that go excellent. Typically I lean toward the longer trains just purely because I think they look cool, but you can do whatever you want in your own playthrough. So let's go ahead and make a line that we can actually set this to, because we don't want it on the steel mill line, and I think we should get an error if we try to set it to that line. Yeah, so let's go ahead. It's just going to be an easy 1-2 stop. So we're going to start here, we're going to go over here, and then I like to use the similar naming convention. So this is going to be a passenger rail, and then this is going to be Abingdon to Seaham. Something like that. You could also, instead of a dash, you could say like 2, but I don't know, something like that just to get the point across, and then it'll sort nicely. And then let's make this like a nice little green or something. The colors don't matter nearly as much for passengers, because while it is cool to like look at a glance and see what cargo routes you have, passengers, you have a lot more flexibility, so I typically like to go for just colors that I like. So now let's actually go and assign the train to the line we just made, and one of my favorite things to do in Transport Fever, I think I mentioned this in the last episode, but that's just to watch the train actually come out of the line. For some reason I always find it just so satisfying, and that is a beauty. Very cool. So let's go ahead and speed up this simulation for a little bit just to get demand at the cities going, because it might take a little bit of time for all the people to actually get to the train station and actually start queuing, but hopefully we should see some more people starting to use the bus stops. And just for fun, let's watch the train go across this ridiculously large bridge we built, and hopefully by the time it gets to one of the cities there should be demand. And I have to say that is a very visually pleasing bridge, so it's not all bad. And hopefully this has been enough time to, no, not quite, so let's just let it run. The cities, the buses are going to take a little bit of time to actually go through and pick up everyone, but let's just go ahead and let this run, and I'll let you know how long this takes. Alright guys, the train is just making it back on its second stop, so it went there and back, and then it went there, and it's about to approach. So it has 20 passengers on it, and a couple things have gone wrong here though that I do want to point out. One of them is that we don't have enough buses to actually supply the demand for the city. So you can see we have 27 people wanting to go to North Road, but we only have 2 buses on this line right now, so it's not enough. And I was gonna buy more buses for them, but unfortunately looks like this train has lost a bunch of money. And one other thing that I should have mentioned in the other episode is that I think this train, the cargo train that we set up originally as well, this train has actually been losing a little bit of money, and that's because you can see here that there's only a couple cargo items waiting for this route, but there's like a massive backlog at each of these truck stations. So if we increase the rate at which the goods are being dropped off at the train station, this line should be profitable. And to do that, we just need to duplicate all the trucks. So I am going to borrow some more money, and it's never a good sign when you have to borrow money like this, but this line should be profitable once we do this. And let's just go ahead and come into here, and these routes could easily take probably like 10 trucks or something, but let me just start with this. And honestly, I think I will do 10, so let's do 5. And oh, that might be 11. Oh well. And let's just do 11 for this one as well, just to be consistent. And now with all these trucks flooding out of this depot right here, we should start making money with this cargo train route right here. Again, might take a little bit of time for all these trucks to actually like go through to their destinations and start picking up this cargo, but that will help out greatly. And then let's see how this city's doing. It looks like the backlog at this city isn't too bad, and that's because we have these trams here which are going to be able to hold a lot more people. But this city up here is definitely a little bit backlogged, so we should add a couple more buses here as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate these maybe twice so that we have 6 buses, or we could be broke and not be able to do that. But ideally, all of this stuff is actually going to make us money, so the investments will pay off. And I might let this simulate a little bit more. We do have some people waiting at the train station. But yeah, I'll let this simulate for a little bit longer, and I'll get back to you in a second. Alright guys, so again, this is the train's second time coming here, and we do have all the people waiting at the station instead of waiting at the bus stops, which is great, but I think we overestimated a little bit how much the capacity would be, and we really don't need 100 capacity on this train if there's only 50 people even waiting at the station. So let's go in here and click this little wrench button right here, and let's just sell off a couple of these cars, and that'll make us a couple $1,000,000, and it'll make the train perform excellent instead of good, and it'll reduce the upkeep cost. So in general, you really don't want to pay for things if you don't need them, and 60 capacity is still more than was even waiting at the station. So hopefully, I think this one is just barely breaking even at this point. Hopefully reducing that couple cargo cars will make this one have a profitable run. And just real quick to recap over here as well, now we have a whole bunch of capacity waiting at this train station, which is great. That's much better than waiting at the industries themselves. And let's look at this train's finances. So instead of losing money a little bit every year, now it's making a little bit of money. Let's go ahead and manage this vehicle as well and just add on a couple more cargo cars so that it can carry some more iron and coal. So something like that. And again, we're a little bit broke, but let's do this. And maybe since we want to have even number of cars, that should be even. 2, 4, and 2, that should all be even. And now this train will be able to carry more as well. So cool, this one will be making more money, and that's kind of the name of the game with Transport Fever. You don't really want to pay for what you're not using, but if you see backlogs of resources like this, you can definitely add more capacity because you know it'll make money. But as for our passenger route over here, this is still just a single train with no signals on it. So join me in the next episode where we'll build another track here and we'll have multiple trains going on one line. Hope to see you there.